Hey guys, and welcome back to Loopin' About Podcast. You have found me on a beautiful day here in Seattle. Welcome to the Northwest. Welcome back to those who have joined me before now, and welcome to newcomers that might be seeing this for the first time. I record from Seattle, Washington, up in the northwest corner of the United States, and I live here with my husband and little dog, who never really makes it into the screen. And I'm Alicia, also known as AK47 on Ravelry, and you can also find me on Instagram as lupinehook. And it's been 2 weeks since last I confessed to you guys about my knitting, and actually I have some sewing on this one as well. So I went looping about in the last 2 weeks and was up to my parents' house where the sewing machine is, and I did do some sewing this week, and I'm really excited to show you what has been on the sewing machine. I also went and got some machine knitting done. I know. It's novel. This is the first time I've seen a machine, touched a machine, but I have been watching a lot of craftsy videos on machine knitting, and it intrigued me enough to find out, wait, I have access to a machine because one of my friends has one, and she's invited me out to check it out, and we're both really nerdy, and so we can nerd out together, and yeah, I got an opportunity to see a knitting machine in action, and I got to use it, and I got to use up 3 skeins of DK weight in a matter of 2.5 hours. I might need to use this more. I don't like boring knitting, so I don't even have stuff in my queue that could even be transferred to a knitting machine at this point. Because if you know me at all, and if you've been watching even just a little bit, I like technical, involved patterns just to keep me busy. So stockinette doesn't interest me at all. I really love classic knits, things that's gonna last my lifetime, but I really don't want to sit and knit in the round stockinette. So I really just don't even queue those things. But I might have to now, because machine knitting is really intuitive, and it is exactly what you would think a machine would do after you've seen it in action. Your brain kind of churns and says, you know how you would do cables is I would do this, and that's exactly what you do. If I needed to reduce, I think I would try this, and that's exactly what you do. So I can see the allure of using a machine. Have you guys used a machine? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's pretty genius. Do you want to see what I made? You're gonna think, that's really not interesting, Alicia. And I would have to agree with you. But it's gonna turn into something more interesting. I hope. Anyway, this is the first time using Studio June yarn in their MCN. So that sounds pretty decadent, doesn't it? So 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. It's called Silver Foam is the colorway. Never used her yarn before. And I can't really say I used it now because I put it on a knitting machine. But I made a big rectangle out of 3 skeins of DK. And the colorway is beautiful. Can you see the depth of the blues and grays that are in there? It's really catching it well. Probably the first time I've shown you something that is actually the real color. Not exactly a color I wear, usually. If I do, it's on my pants or, lower on my shirt. I have had the Church Mouse easy folded poncho in my queue for a long time. Had a hard time justifying paying $6 to make a rectangle. So for years, it's been in my queue, or at least in my, orbit of thought that maybe I would want to make it. but I couldn't justify paying for the pattern because it's a rectangle. Anyway, so in the end, and after I block it, so this is pre-blocked, when the machine I was using had 200 stitches on the bed. And it can work on weights of yarn from lace to, I want to say, bulky, maybe? And that's done by using, if it's lace weight, you use every needle up to fingering. I think fingering weight, you use probably every needle. Well, this is DK, so I used every other needle, so you can only work on 99 stitches at a time. So I couldn't have it much wider than this. This is the width that I could do. There's a lot of stretch in this. Hey, it's kind of ridiculous how much stretch is in this. And that's kind of impressive how much stretch is in here. So I'm kind of hoping, and it stretches this way too, I'm hoping that when I block it out, I might reach the dimensions that I was intending. I also have smaller statured people that I could give this to, and maybe this becomes a poncho for a child. I don't know. I am 12 inches short lengthwise, but I'm about right on width. So I'm hoping all that stretch in the width that I have right now will transfer to the length. Fingers crossed. If not, and because this isn't a color I can wear, and my shorter statured person that I usually give things to is my mom, she can't really wear this color either. So I'm thinking of framing this in a darker color so that it will, one, reach dimension, and two, be more wearable for someone in my family. So we'll see. If not, I'm gonna have to think of more ideas. But I did this in less than a day. I don't even think I can crochet that fast. No, I know I can't crochet that fast. So it's kind of gratifying to have a machine. This was super simple. I was just sitting, learning, how to make mistakes on the machine, which I made a good number of mistakes. So the next day I was brain tired because I just jumped in, crash course. My friend was very knowledgeable. This is maybe her third or fourth project. So we're kind of learning the machine together, and we tried a few new things together so that we had each other for confidence. And it was really, really fun. Thank you, Jessica, so much for inviting me over and letting me play on your machine. It was amazing. I am shocked at how fast you can get through skeins. So if you have this kind of guilt that I have sometimes when I look at my stash, and you don't want to knit stockinette, but you like the look of stockinette finished pieces, machine knitting is kind of brilliant. And you're gonna want to have the option to sew as an okay phenomenon because you're gonna be making panels that need to be seamed. Not big on the seaming either, clearly. I went for a rectangle knowing that my sewing was gonna be like 12 inches long, right? In the end, when this is finished. So yeah, I'm not in a hurry to buy a machine, but a boxy, I could do a boxy by Joji Locatelli now, knowing that I could put it on a machine. Because I think she knits most of her things on straight needles, so you're gonna be seaming anyway. I'm sure you could make it go in the round, and maybe the pattern has been written to be in the round, but she uses a straight needle. So if her intention initially was to seam stuff, it could happen on a machine, which is brilliant. That's when I could do a boxy. Boxy sweater lady, you know who you are. I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you've done so many of these, but I would need a machine. So review on the machine, I can see why people use it. Now I thought, well, maybe this will be an option when maybe I've become arthritic and can't use my hands, because I use my hands in all my hobbies, right? I'm a climber, I've started to sew, and I'm a knitter and a crocheter. That's a lot of hands-on hand stuff. I don't think my hands are gonna make it my whole life, right? So I thought, well, when I can't hold a needle, or if that pain is a reality, maybe machine will be my next thing. I would say yes, except it's very fiddly to fix things, to fix errors. You have to be kind of precise with your hands. But maybe in time, I will have less mistakes on a machine. And then maybe the fiddly bit would be really minimal. Maybe. I don't know. But that's my thought so far. So I don't mind it. That's not a finished object, but finished on a machine, right? The machine can't do anything more for me. So you may see that again. But I finished my mitts finally. I know. They were supposed to be done last year, but they're done now. I started right before ZK, and this is the Companion Mitts by Erica Luder. I used Araucania Botany Lace for the yarn, and the colorway, I have no idea what it is, but it's got magenta and cobalt as like the end colors, and then where they mingle, it's a purple. Isn't that pretty? I finished them, guys. I did the intended motifs on the bottom and the top. I did the thumb that they called for. I think I might have changed how much ribbing. Might be in my notes. It's probably in my notes. Yeah, super comfy. There is only one size, so I did the size intended. I did change the patterning in here. Now, I've made them before, so I've done the proper pattern, but this time I decided to use Hermione's Everyday, which is the same author, just a different pattern, right? And that was something I could memorize, I could do while I was chatting, which I did, and it was good and mindless, and they're done. So this is my 8th mitt for a friend of mine, and we were supposed to meet up this past week, but we just kept missing each other. So hopefully this week I can turn it into her. And then I also finished my socks. So you saw this one last week. This is Min Pinstripes, perhaps. Hi, wee sheep. This is your pattern. And it's wonderful, and it's quick, and it's mindless, and it was wonderful. It got me through a shorty sock without doing just stockinette, which was brilliant. And it was still just knitting, along with some slip stitches every other row, which was super fantastic. But I finished this one. So now I have an FO, a finished object. And this was the gradient that I got, and I shared with Annetta. So Annetta started at one end, and then sent it to me when she was done, and then I picked up right where she left off, which meant I had a lot of blue. Started off kind of light, went dark. This dark bit was the 50% mark in the skein. And then it lightened up through blue to green, started on green, went through yellow, and just a tad bit of orange, which I'm super stoked about because look, no pink. So I have leftovers, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, seriously, call me out on it and tell me, no, you promised me that. I think I'm sending this leftover bit to Bindu. So, do you remember me saying that at the table? It was at ZK, a lot was going on, I knew I didn't want pink, and there were people at the table that love pink, and I promised this to somebody. I think it's Bindu. So, yeah, that's going to be off in the mail pretty soon. So, super lovely pattern. Super enjoyed it. Hers is a tall sock, and I just started mine after I turned the heel into the gusset, because I don't have a leg on this. I went 12 rows of ribbing right into the heel flap, and then as soon as I was in the round, I started her pattern. So if you're just looking to do a shorty, and you have something in your queue, which is a full sock, just start the pattern after you join in the round. So there's that. Those are my 2 FOs for this week. But I did work on this beast. So we're calling my long on the needle projects thesis knitting. And this has been on the needles for years. And it's getting a good size. If I am on the couch curled up in a ball, this can cover me. So that's pretty exciting. I feel like that's a milestone. So let's see where I finished off last time. So last we chatted about this 10-stitch blanket by Frankie Brown. I had thought maybe I had enough O-loops yarn to make a full perimeter like I did with the Desert Vista Dye Works, which was all self-striping. And I wanted to cover up all that self-striping with variegated or tonals or something not striped. So I thought, well, with all those minis that Kimmy Ann 93 sent me in our swap, and the 3 or 4 colorways I already had of O-loops, maybe I could make it all the way around. Well, it turns out I could. It was very close. I started here, right? And I just ended just past it. So I barely made it just the way around. There was a colorway that I didn't want to use, and I'll get to it when it comes up. But I had to use it because I wasn't going to make it all the way around. So we finished off here in the purple, which was the last Desert Vista Dye Works colorway, and went right into Serious Black. So this is part of her Harry Potter colorways that may or may not be available this year during her updates, and there is an update going on. She's doing 2 more updates. Serious Black hasn't come up yet, but if you love it, you might be able to get it in the 3rd update that's coming up on the 1st of August, or around the 1st week of August. So that's Serious Black, gray, burgundy, and gold, orangey, yellow kind of colorway. And that was Fractal Danger that I knit out of it last year. That was a Martina Bem pattern, and I used most of it. Not quite all of it. So this is about 5 grams, I would assume. And it is her Perfection Knot. So that's a 75 merino, 25 nylon base. This one is Bimini Twist base, and it is Blue Thanksgiving is the colorway. And this came from Kimmy Ann 93. There's some beautiful oranges, just specks of orange in there, some blue, some green, and cream. And then there's some tiny flecks of black in there. This next one is Perfection Knot, so 75-25 sock, and it's Prisoner 24601. So maybe another Serious Black colorway. Rounded that corner. This one I had a good amount. The next one is Chamber of Secrets. So it goes from there to there. Isn't that beautiful? So these are variegated colorways by her, and I would say that this might be a speckle, just the way it pooled. I mean, you get 4 or 5 stitches of each color. It's really pretty. This next one is Dean Thomas. I feel like this one's available right now if you were to go look at her yarn online. And she's doing pre-orders right now for all her Harry Potter colorways. This next one, I might have to find. I hope this one comes back. And that's Bellatrix Lestrange. So one of the villainesses. Oh, and it's beautiful, and it rounded that corner. A good amount of that. Thank you so much, Kim. And then we have A Walk Among the Irises. Isn't that gorgeous? There's some green and cream, light purple like a lavender, and a dark purple in there. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but there's some sparkle. I feel like it's a gold sparkle. And that's her fashion knot. It has sparkle in it. I had the smallest amount of Weasley boys, and this looks kind of unbecoming because that's what I pulled out of my shawl, and that's what was left over of the stuff that I pulled out, and then went back and finished 8 rows. This next one is called the Shire, and that's a nice speckle. Isn't that pretty? There's some green, some mauves, gray, and some cream in there. Oh, it's really pretty. And that rounded the corner. Good amount on that one. That one made me feel like I was gonna make it. And then this is the colorway that I didn't want to use because it's sport weight, and the rest of my colorways in here are sock weight. So it is a little bit thicker, and you can probably, I don't know if you can, it's pretty dramatic. See, it's pretty dramatic at this intersection where it's sport weight and the rest are sock. So, but the next round will make that look better. I'm not too worried. But this is Cutie Pie, and this was my first colorway by O-Loops. And I actually won it at my first ZK, and that was 2015. And I had it in my stash for a while. I pulled it out, read the tag, looked her up, and said, wait a minute, Spokane is here in Washington. Should have noticed that when I first got it, but this introduced me to O-Loops. So thank you to ZK 2015, introduced me to a local dyer in my state. And then the final colorway is the last colorway I used in the Harry Potter knit along last year. That was O-Loops, and that is Drive All Night. It was a set, and I don't know where the charcoal is. Or it probably could have made it this section that I didn't want to use because it was sport weight. But that's okay. So Drive All Night, I also used this in a knit for Lindsay Ann for the little Seattle gift I made everybody, which was a little sleeve for their coffees. So that's her colorway. And it made it all the way around. Got past the purple and I was so stoked. Yeah, so I made it all the way around with O-Loops, and I'm super excited. I've gotten a new wind with this, and it was because I really didn't want to work on the mitts, and I needed to knit something. So I got kind of focused on O-Loops. So check her out. She has updates going on for the Harry Potter knit along, which takes over October, November, and December. I haven't ordered yet, but there is a colorway that has caught my eye, and it actually holds a lot of these colors in it from the Bellatrix Lestrange, but it's not that one. I think it's something Pixies. Yeah, but it looks yummy, so that might be my thing. Hopefully next week I have to decide if I'm ordering in this update. So that was more progress on my blanket. Very pleased with my blanket because it's getting to a size that feels like it might be getting close. It's not getting close, but I'm thinking it's garter and it's gonna block out bigger. If you've made this before and you can encourage me in some way to think that it might be done soon, that would be much appreciated because I feel like it's never ending. So let's jump into my lab work, which is what I've been working on, and it's still work in progress up to now. So I started something new since the last time I saw you. I was watching, oh, I've dropped some stitches. I had a feeling that was happening, but I just caught them, so let's not look at that part. Let's look at a different section. Okay. So I saw this on another podcast, and that was the O-Loops podcast, which is KPDR. It's 4 letters. It's those 4 letters, but I'm not sure that's the order. I'll correct myself if I'm wrong. Anyway, that's O-Loops and Banna and Bean have teamed together for their own podcast, and it's very recent. I think they're on their 5th episode. Lydia from O-Loops used to have her own, but now she's teamed up with a friend. And so I was watching them, and Lydia had just finished her Codicus shawl, and I fell in love with it. And it was DK. I'm kind of on a kick on DK weight shawls because they work up really fast. And this has some color work in it. And it was going to use up scraps, not full skeins of yarn. And I thought, well, I have some leftovers. And I have a brand new skein of DK that I want to use. I'm going to do it. So, the Codicus shawl. It is color work. And it's a shawl, so you're thinking, is that purling in color work? Yes, it is, but I decided not to. So, I'll show you this side. During the color work, I went in the round and I made a little steek little tab in each section. So, I am going to steek this when I'm done, but I'm going to have to show you it kind of in a weird way, right? It would be a shawl that I could show you if I didn't join in the round and intend on steeking. So let's go through the colorways. This first one you might recognize as a hat that I took out from last year. I did a hat by Woolly Wormhead, and it was a mystery, and it turned out to be a really big hat, and I thought, well, maybe I can make it a beret, but it was intended to be a slouchy, and I don't like slouchy hats. So I pulled that out. So some of this knitting might look a bit wonky because I didn't wash it and dry it before I used it again. So it's a bit crimpy. So it doesn't look great. So please don't judge my knitting. It's because there's still kink in the yarn. So that first one is Pearl Handled Pistol by One Twisted Tree. And I got this at ZK 2016. And then the green I just got at ZK 2018, so this year, just last month. And that's Ballard by Suburban Stitcher, and she helped me pick that out. That was a special moment for me. This light blue, I don't know if I showed you that FO, but it was a crocheted jacket that I ended up giving to Annetta for her first granddaughter. Super cute. It's a little car coat. Adorable. And that is Debbie Bliss, Rialto DK. Don't know the color. 24033, I think, is the color number. Could be. And then the next piece of color work, I used the teal from the apple pie hat, that Tin Can Knits hat that I did last year. That's leftovers and it's worsted. That's an Cadence based. And that's Finny Ridge is the colorway, which was a special colorway done for the LYS tour out here a couple years ago. 2016, perhaps? The speckle is called Floral Bouquet, and it is also a Suburban Stitcher colorway. And that was leftovers from a Gleam shawl I did just a few months ago. I revisited the blue from way up here. The teal was not supposed to be used. That's supposed to be light blue too. But I wasn't going to have enough to do that whole colorwork section. So I substituted in teal for that end. And then the teal looked so good with Ballard, which is that green, that I used it for the last couple rows of that. And I might have modified and added another row of colorwork in there. But doesn't it just pop off that green? So I'm in my last section. I got busy the last 2 weeks. And actually I think it's been a solid week since I cast this on. And it goes so fast. Have you guys done DK shawls before? Any kind of DK knitting is actually pretty quick. Sorry, let me tie myself back up into hat form over here. DK weight is so quick. It is the most gratifying weight to date. I don't like working with worsted because you end up using bigger needles, and bigger needles hurt my hands. And it's kind of ridiculous. My cutoff point is US 8s, I think. And then I start feeling the pain. This is on US 6. Some people have modified it to a bigger needle because the drape could be a little, more favorable if you went up in needle size. I'm using US 6 as it's called for in the pattern, and I'm really enjoying the knit. Super enjoying. I was a little worried about this speckle because all of a sudden it was like, bam, you got a really light color. But because it's such a small section and color work is working through it, it kind of broke up how bright that was showing against all these saturated colors. So I am just gonna accept it, and it is what it is. But for a hot second, I was thinking of not using it. So I'm accepting it. I have reached the point where I'm supposed to turn to ribbing down in this green, but I have a lot of green. I think I still have 50 grams to work with green. So I'm going to just keep on knitting a little bit further on this. And then there's ribbing, and I might do more ribbing than they called for because some people noticed that it was kind of small. And I keep dropping stitches. Yeah, so I might go through some more green just because I have it. My last work in progress. And this you might not have seen in a bit. So I've gotten a lot done since last you saw it. And I've put it on, not waste yarn, but try it on kind of cord that Kim had made me and gave it to me at the Kentucky little meetup that we had. So this is my poncho progress. And I put that s'mores in from the last time we talked about this together. And look at the cables. I tried it on. I just got to the end of the increases that are called out for my size. I am making the small. It called for 12 inches of positive ease, but I know I don't like that kind of positive ease. So I am a 35 bust, and I think the small will give me about 7 or 8 inches of positive ease, and that seems more my style. And I really love the fit so far. Sean helped me by taking a picture. And that's my Mary Poppins pose. I'm really enjoying it. So at this point, for people of normal stature, which I am not average height, I'm a little above and beyond average height for a woman. So I'm gonna add 3 more inches to this. And because when they stop the increases, then you should drop off your sleeves, I'm gonna keep increasing the front and the back in the manner in which I've been doing it for the past 76 rows. And then stop increasing when I actually drop the sleeves. I have about 15 more rows to do, and I can do about 5 rows a day. I try to attempt 5 rows and then I can knit something else, and sometimes I feel like doing more and sometimes I don't. So I'm just kind of going with whatever I feel like doing. I got a new bag, and I got it from Heidi West Designs, and she's on Instagram. Definitely check her out. In her Instagram header, you can get a link to her site. But this is what I like to call a medic bag, and it stands up on its own. And then to close it, looks like a little medic bag. Right? So it's a bucket when it's open. A medic bag with straps when it's closed. I love it. Do you see it's purple? Purple little raindrops. I am super stoked about that. She is out of Portland. She's a maker out of Portland. And she came up to Seattle for the Urban Craft Uprising, I believe it was called. and it was at the Seattle Center, and it was super duper fun, and it was really great to see her in person and see her bags in person before I would make an online purchase. I haven't made another purchase yet, but I plan to because this bag is super high quality. She does her own silk screening designs. And they're beautiful. Beautiful. Super high quality. The lining, look at that. 3 skeins of worsted weight are in the bottom of that bag. So the yarn comes up to here. Easily closed with 3 skeins. And you can still slip in your project. And if you're just knitting around the house, which I do, this is my stay-at-home big project bag. I just leave this open, and then my sweater. 3 skeins of sweater sitting on top of 3 skeins of yarn in my bag. So this just sits next to my couch upstairs, and just pull it out and have a bucket feeding me yarn for the rest of that project. I am really thoroughly enjoying this project. I did stumble quite a bit at the start, but I think it's only if you use the book. So I don't recommend the book, sadly. But it is a PDF download on Ravelry, and all those erratas have been addressed in the updated version, and I would say buy it from there. I did say that I got some sewing done. I am super pleased. It has been a good couple months since the sewing machine has done my foundation paper piecing project. The last 3 months in a row, I was making sewn things for gifts for the retreats I have been going to. And so this one's kind of been on the back burner. I had the tree and the star complete for months. And I finally got to do my schoolhouse. Isn't that fantastic? I want to point out a few things. So I put some flowers up in the star that were orange and yellow. There's also the sunset from an Aloha print that I had. And then that gold looks more brown, but it is gold. And that's actually still repeated in the outlines around the windows. I put plumeria in all the windows. And I think that was supposed to be a sign. And I didn't realize it until I was done. I really should slow down and plan out these things. But I don't. I get so excited and I just power through them. I really love this print. For a while, I have been thinking I was going to make a red schoolhouse. Because when I think schoolhouse, I think red. Is that just me? I don't know. But I looked up old school schoolhouses. Not many of them were red. A lot of them are white. And I think some were blue. And so I decided I have a lot of red going on the right-hand side of my quilt right now. And this one was going to line up, you know, in that right-hand column. And I thought, I don't even have a preference to red. I don't think I want to make it look like red is my favorite color in this quilt. So I went through all my pieces and decided on this really deep navy. And I don't know if it's showing up navy, but it is. But it had the kalo plant in it. So this is what poi is made out of. It's steamed root, right there, the root, and mashed, and that makes poi. Kalo is the Hawaiian word for it, but you guys know it as taro. So I figured that needed to be in there. And then there's also a turtle, or part of a turtle. Yeah, there's part of a turtle right here. You can see his shell and fins. And I saw this helix and I thought, oh, that belongs in a schoolhouse, right? And then in the doorway, I put the Aloha Tower. I have been wanting to place this Aloha Tower in full in this quilt somewhere. For a while, I thought I was gonna put it on a billboard that's coming up in my next block, but the billboard is more horizontal in length than it is vertical in length. And so I didn't think it was gonna make the full tower inside of it. So I saw this one, I went upstairs, searched for the Aloha Tower that I wanted to put in, and tested it out, and seriously got most of it in there. So that was a highlight of this block, was my Aloha Tower. And then some other highlight to this was this little mushroom that I got in the base of the tree. Made me so super happy. And then a pineapple up in the tree. And then you also have a hibiscus, a full flower in there. So I was super, super excited. I also got some bumper shoots up in the roof line. So these ones are upside down, so you can see the handle, and then you can kind of see a full umbrella right there, and then just the top of the bumper shoot up there. So super happy. I decided, since it was a schoolhouse, and schoolhouses usually have children in them, right? I decided that the children painted the steps their own fun colors. And I got to hit up the mushrooms one more time. So super happy with this. It is missing a piece. So this section is supposed to have a flag. And of course, they have it so that it's an American flag, right? But considering I'm using all Aloha print fabric throughout the entire thing, and it's my little Hawaiian quilt, right? I decided I really want to put in a Hawaiian flag. Now, a Hawaiian flag, for those that don't know, and I don't know if I've inserted a picture, but I can describe it as easily as showing a picture, has a Union Jack in the square where the American flag has stars. And then it has stripes, but it only has 8 of them for each main island that is part of the Hawaiian chain. The Hawaiian chain actually has over 100 islands, but the only ones that are inhabited are the main ones that you guys know. Anyway, so I've been asking family members who quilt, and I've been asking around to friends to see if anybody had a Union Jack that I could put in the square in my flag. No. I looked through all the fabric I have, and I don't have a Union Jack. I don't have a Hawaiian flag in there. I thought that maybe on the Aloha Tower one, it was gonna have a Hawaiian flag, but it has an American flag on it. So I've been kind of in search of a Union Jack. Well, I found one in my hunt this time at Pacific Fabrics. So I'm gonna use that guy right there in my flag for my Hawaiian flag, and I'm super excited. I'm going to be using strips of red, white, and blue for the stripes in the flag, and then I will be able to finish off that block. So that block isn't quite done, but that is my 5th block out of 8, and I'm getting really close to finishing. I feel like, and maybe you can tell by the picture, that it's not going to be a full-size quilt. So I'm either going to have to do some interesting sashing to make it bigger, and I'll still need sashing even if I'm making it a throw quilt. But maybe it's one of those mini quilts that you're supposed to hang on the wall. I don't know, because I don't think it's even specified in my pattern as to what dimension they were going for. So I'm thinking I'm gonna have interesting sashing. But block almost complete. I am new to this sewing thing, and I have been pushing myself in different ways in order to build up my skills. And so I've made a couple bags. I've learned to do zippers. I've learned to do zippers because Sean's sweater requires a zipper, and I'm not ready to sew knitting at all. Even those steaks that I told you about, I don't think I'm using a sewing machine. I probably should, just to up the factor, but I'm not ready. And so I think I'm gonna make some swatches. I me, swatches, but it's not to make a dimension. It's just to practice on a sewing machine. I think that's probably the best way to go. But zippers are hard. Zippers are hard before you even introduce your precious knitting to the sewing machine. So, yeah. But I put some zippers in 3 bags. But because I want to up the challenge and up my skills in fun ways, right? I don't want to just torture myself at a sewing machine. I decided to enter a swap. And the swap is called the Wonky Star Swap 2018, and it's actually the 3rd one they've done this year, and it's July. So there might be a 4th one in the final quarter of 2018. So if you watch my progress, and it hasn't happened, it hasn't started yet, and are interested in swapping, you make 12 blocks. And actually, I don't even think they told you how many partners you were going to have. I think it depends on how many you signed up, right? So I ended up with 12 partners. I'm making 12-inch blocks. And before sewing, they're 12.5-inch blocks, right? With a wonky star on it. And it could have multiple wonky stars. It could have a single wonky star. It could be any size. Your star could be in any quadrant. I hope I've put up the Instagram pound wonky star swap 2018 on Instagram, so you can go check it out. But I needed to pick up some material. So most of them need to have a white or Reed's white background. So I picked up a few. Oh, remember that billboard I talked about in my, that's coming up in my foundation paper piecing quilt? I'm thinking of putting that pineapple in the billboard. So I think it'll fit like that perfectly, or enough that you know it's a big old pineapple in the billboard. So the rest of that will be white background. And then I picked up a chevron, and I picked up little flower print, and then polka dots and circles, and then a full quarter with little pinwheels on it. And then the best one I found, You Make Me Happy, and it's all over in different boldness of font. So I thought that would be cool. I don't think I have enough white background though. So I might get a few blocks done and then have to return to the fabric store and pick up some more background fabric. And one person in my swap said, hey, the last couple swaps I've asked for a black background. And so I found this mesmerizing fabric, and it was a baby bolt, so it was 20% off or something, as long as you bought the whole baby bolt. And I thought, yeah, I need that in my life, because I think that would go well in my Aloha print stuff, because it looks like waves, doesn't it? And so for all my roof lines have been different fabric, Hawaiian fabric. So I've probably run out of black Hawaiian fabric, and I have 3 more blocks. So this might come in handy. And I'm thinking it will be in 2 more blocks. You'll see it. But yeah, so that's gonna be, because that reads black, right? Even though it has white in it, we'll see. Very stoked. So I've been trying to figure out what a wonky block will actually be dimension-wise, because I've found some patterns, but they don't actually give you dimensions. They give you things to cut out and use as patterns. Little engineer that could over here needs to see numbers, and I need to know what I'm actually looking for, because as soon as I wrote this out, I realized I don't have enough background fabric for this. even though I thought I overbought. 12.5-inch squares are big. So the adventure will continue. My other list is all the participants in their RAB names that participated in the second quarter of our knit along here at Lupin About Podcast. And we've been doing garments. We've done garments, and then in the garments that we choose, you could go willy-nilly on the yarn we're using or the designer. Those are all up in the chatter thread. Check it out. We're making garments all year long. And then if you use the yarn, you can make anything. So there were socks and gloves and a shawl this quarter that we're using either designer or yarn from podcast host selections. So it's been a variety of things to look at. Hopefully it's feeding your queue as much as it's feeding mine. We've had 16 individual participants this time and 26 finished objects. Yeah, there's some repeats. I only got one. But look at all of that. So I've got your name, the number in which it was entered into our knit along, and what you made. There's a couple So Faded in there. Baby Surprise Sweater was a couple in there. Something that really caught my eye was the Eyelet Poncini, which I'm intrigued by, but it's also kind of boring looking. Is that something that is a rectangle and then I'm going to seam something? Might not be into that construction. There was a Mama Vertebrae. I've made a infant vertebrae and that was super fun. So I'm wondering if the mama one was as fun as the baby one was. The baby one took no time at all. Or the infant one, the free one. Saw another Friendship Road. Yeah, you guys have been busy. And there were a set of gloves in the FOs this quarter that were beautiful. Let me see. Ice Bloom gloves. Gorgeous. Good job, Nicole S. That, if it's not already in my queue, I'm pretty sure I have the same designer in my queue right now, and I think I have 4 or 5 of her patterns. So, random number generator, and that's not the winner, by the way. Okay, here we go. 1 through 26. And our winner is number 8. Funny, I just mentioned your name. Nicole S. On the last podcast, I showed you what your prize is going to be, and it is the Maker's Prize. A bunch of things that I got from the Urban Craft Uprising from makers that were participating. And so I will be sending that your way. If you can contact me, that was for your Nomiya socks, and that was made out of Plucky yarns, sorry. And I used Plucky in Sean's cardigan, which was one of the FOs this quarter as well. So if you could message me on Ravelry with your email address, or your mailing address, I will get that out to you as soon as I can. And I have a stack of things that need to go to the post office. So this will prompt me to take all those things to the post office. So if you're waiting for something from me, just continue to be patient, because me and post offices don't have the best rapport. And so, yeah, this will give me the kick in the pants that I need to do it. Well, I was also contacted by one of our moderators, and that's Annette, Nettie1020. Hi, thank you for donating a pattern to one of our second quarter prize winners. So I'm going to draw one more time. So here we go. That was the 8. Now we're going to generate the second one. That's 26, the last one. And that's Mojave Knitter. And she finished Nice Capades, which is out of the Minnesota 52 book, Colorwork Yoked Sweater. Good job, Mojave Knitter. It was so nice to see you at a ZK this past time, and that you spent the entire time with us at our table. We kind of have an obnoxious table. Maybe no one else will tell you this, but I will tell you. We are kind of high energy, super pumped about being there, and it really shows. And I love you guys. I love you guys so much. So Tiffany, You and Annette need to get chatting and seeing what your next pattern's gonna be. Maybe it's gonna be for this KL for the next 3rd or 4th quarter. Great job this quarter, guys. I am thoroughly impressed. We outdid the 1st quarter. So I guess we should probably try to outdo the 1st and 2nd quarter in this 3rd one. We already have 2 finished objects in the threads. Please check out the chatter. There are some rules and there are some fun ways to get involved that isn't knitting a garment. So come check it out, come join us, and we would love to see your finished objects. So I think that brings everything to a close. I've covered a lot of things in 2 weeks. I clearly need to podcast weekly because this is gonna be long. But I hope you guys got a lot of knitting in while I chatted my little fool head off. And until we knit again, bye guys.